Hey there, y'all. Editor Beanie coming at you once again. So a few episodes ago, I covered Chobits with my friend MaeMae in an episode we recorded together a couple years before I started doing this with Laurel. Today's installment is the other episode I did with MaeMae way back when. Hope you enjoy. Hello, and welcome to the Weeb Years, a look back at the media and culture of the Western anime boom. I am Beanie.
And I'm MaeMae.
Today, we are talking about an anime that is very close to my heart, Darker Than Black.
I'm so sorry that it's close to your heart, and I'm sorry for everything I'm about to say.
You know, we can't watch the anime together because it fucks up being able to talk about things during the recording, but while we're on our own watching, obviously we message, we keep in touch, that kind of thing. And I kind of had a feeling from what you were hinting at that was going to be how today was going to go, just a little bit.
I can't believe I was that obvious.
Okay, so for backstory, this Darker Than Black was, if I'm correct, the first anime that my high school anime club watched all the way through.
Aww.
We just did the first season for today's recording. But I remember when the first anime that we watched during anime club was Darker Than Black. And then years later, when season 2 came out, we were watching that shit as it was airing. Like every day after school, whenever a new episode dropped, we'd all rush to the, I think it was held in the shop class room for some reason, because that was the only room that the teacher who oversaw things could get. We would all...
That's amazing.
After class, we'd all run to the shop class room, we'd sit down, it's like, yeah, Darker Than Black Season 2, let's go! So...
That's amazing. Well, when you were first watching it, did you watch them all together, or was it on like a DVD? How did you watch it?
The teacher who oversaw everything was real cool. She was fully down with piracy.
Oh, excellent. That's...
Like, it was fan subs all the way. I think for season 1, someone did actually bring in the DVDs that they had, which, gosh, if they still have those, lucky them, as we will talk about later.
Definitely lucky for them, not so lucky for us.
Yeah.
Alright, so you want to give us some background info on Darker Than Black?
Yeah, so the full Japanese title is actually Darker Than Black Kuro no Keiyakusha, or The Black Contractor. For some reason, they got rid of that subtitle when they brought it to English markets. Not sure why. Whatever.
I kind of hate that. I sort of love how mysterious that makes it, but I do like the shortened thing. The shortened name. It does make a little bit more sense and is snappy.
Also important to point out that for some reason, black is in all caps, so it's Darker Than Black.
Yeah, you gotta get the ack in there.
Darker Than Black. It was released in 2007 by Studio Bones. Created by, gonna do my best to say this right. It was created by Tensai Okamura, who was also responsible for directing Wolf's Rain.
Ooh.
And he also did storyboards for a huge number of popular works such as Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, and even Ouran High School Host Club.
All the big names. Wow.
Yeah. So this was originally licensed by Funimation back in the day. They put out DVDs, but their license for the show expired in 2016, and currently the series is completely out of print, and it's also not available on any streaming services. You can't get it on Crunchyroll, can't get it on Hulu, none of that. So we did have to trek to the high seas to watch this one, unfortunately. I did put in a good effort, and I did look at every thrift store that I have access to, but none of the book resellers were offering anything like that. I did as well. Like, I was scouring eBay. There was one point where I did try and buy, I think it was like a Taiwanese release or something like that, that did have English subtitles. But one, I really wanted us to watch the dub for this one. We did, which also, yeah, on that note, we did watch the dub. And also, it would have taken months to get here and still would have been really expensive. Because here's the thing, like, you go on eBay, you can find the DVDs, have fun spending like $50 per disc.
That's obscene. But I guess it makes sense for something that's out of print. Like, if I were to go and try and find a book that's out of print, I'm going to expect to pay more unless it's, like, widely available. But as we'll talk about later, I didn't even know this thing existed. So
Yeah, and like, here's the thing. My anger about the price of these is in no way directed at the people selling them. They know what they have. They are fully within their rights to be selling it for that much. It is completely understandable. My anger is directed at the fucking companies and the studios that are not making it easier to watch anime. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this fucking podcast in the first place. There is so much good classic anime from like pre-2010 that is well worth watching in the modern day. And like, even the ones that you can find today on streaming services like Crunchyroll and such, they don't fucking tell you about them. Crunchyroll has a massive backlog of really good anime from yesteryear, but all they focus on is advertising what's currently airing. And so all this great shit from when you and I were coming up watching anime, like, it's just getting lost to the wayside and people are forgetting about it.
no, it absolutely is. And I don't see that with other types of like streaming media. Like if you go on, I don't know, Amazon or something, they're going to be advertising those old like movies and stuff that they have. Maybe not all of them, but like I went up onto Amazon the other day and it was advertising a movie that came out in the 90s that I hadn't thought about since the 90s. But like any of the anime streaming services are not advertising what they have. And I think that's a shame because you're right. There's so much good that we can still enjoy. But I do think the market is absolutely flooded with new releases. So they might just simply not have the time and space for it.
Yeah, I'm not going to claim to be an expert, of course, but that is my theory as to why that is the case. And this is a complaint that you see like anime Twitter making a lot, is just like, hey, there's too much anime being made right now. There's too much and the creators are being overworked. Let's stop having like 20-30 new anime a season, knock it back down to the like 5 or 6 it used to be, and people can actually like finish their fucking backlogs instead of just adding more to it.
See, I would love to see something like that. I would love if every single anime that came out had the highest production quality possible because they're not rushing to get it done by a certain timeline. But I do, on the other side of that, love how many studios are making stuff to watch. Like, that's kind of phenomenal. So, like, I want a bunch of anime, but I also want them to take their time.
Anyway, let's actually talk about Darker Than Black.
Let's do it.
Now, because of how this show is structured, this episode is probably going to be a little bit more all over the place in terms of how we discuss it and like when we bring up certain things compared to other episodes, which is something that we can explain more as we go on. But first off, MaeMae, how much did you know about this show before going in? Because I'd seen it before, but this was a fresh-faced one for you.
I had never ever heard of this, and as I was watching it, I realized that I maybe had seen little snippets or like maybe even bumps like in between, like on Adult Swim, because I recognized some of the characters that we got to eventually, but overall I had no idea about this show, like zero context. I was like, what even is Darker Than Black? That sounds so incredibly specific for me to have never, ever heard of this.
See, that's very surprising to me, because while Darker Than Black was never on, like, the Naruto or the Death Note level, it was still, like, I remember very, very popular back in the day. So the idea that you could just completely avoid it is surprising to me.
Well, I am pretty upset that I missed out on this. One of the big reasons why is this soundtrack is killer. Who gave us the intro song?
I don't know why this isn't something I wrote down. Let me actually pull this up real fast so I have the proper intro, because I know one of them was Abingdon Boys School. So the first OP was Howling by Abingdon Boys School, and then the second one, Kakusei Heroism, The Hero Without a Name, was by Anne Cafe.
Well, I'm not super familiar with their body of work, but those songs were bangers every time.
Yes.
I was tempted to listen to it every time.
I think I might like the first one better, but I do remember having the second one on my my MP3 player in high school and listening to that over and over. As for the rest of the soundtrack, you were talking about how much you enjoyed that. We can thank fucking Yoko Kanno for that. Cowboy Bebop, Ghost in the Shell, Wolf's Rain, Escaflowne.
Holy cow, the music in this it's just fucking amazing. I think whatever I was watching this on, the sound mixing wasn't fantastic, but that's not to take away from how incredible the score was. It was always appropriate. It was always really cool. And it just sounded amazing. No matter what was going on, the soundtrack was banger.
That's one, and I'm not a person who does this sort of thing, but I would totally consider buying this soundtrack on like a CD or something.
Ooh, I hadn't even considered it, but yes, I probably would too.
Also, I fully agree with you on the sound mixing thing. That is one of the things I have on my notes to touch on. I don't know if it's just the dub. I probably should have watched at least one episode of the sub just to check. But yeah, at least in the dub, the sound mixing is kind of off sometimes. Every now and then the music is a little bit louder than it probably should be compared to the vocals.
Yes.
And when you don't have subtitles, especially when you have to pirate it and you can't just like turn subs on the DVD, it can be a little frustrating.
Extra frustrating. I'm actually pretty hard of hearing, so if there was plot points that were covered up by music, I straight up missed them, which is absolutely something to chat about.
I feel like, if I remember correctly, this was not an uncommon problem in this time period for like anime dubs, which is gonna pose a problem in the future for you and your hearing trouble specifically, considering we're probably gonna be watching mostly dubs.
Yeah, that was one thing I wasn't looking forward to, but even like pushing past my disabilities here, I feel like it's still absolutely watchable. One thing that this show does pretty decently well, maybe like a 7 out of 10, is even if you don't get every bit of dialogue, you can still kind of hobble along and figure out what's going on, and not in a negative context.
Oh yeah, it's never, the mixing was never something that like ruined the experience, but it was still noticeable enough that I did want to touch on it.
Definitely worth mentioning, but it doesn't take away too much.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to go over some of the voice cast for at least the main characters. I'm going to go ahead and send you this little list here to read off, if you can, for me.
I love this because I can't pronounce any of these things. Wonderful. Jason Liebrecht?
I think Liebrecht.
Liebrecht as Hey. Looks like they also play Rob Lucci in One Piece. Lucy? Again, no idea how to pronounce anything.
I think Lucci. I've yet to see One Piece. That was just one of the biggest names on his IMDb that I could find.
No, that totally works. I really enjoyed their performance. We've got Brina Palencia as Yin. They are also Holo from Spice and Wolf. Ooh, is that on our list? Can we watch that one?
Oh, of course it's on our list.
Yay! We've also got Kent Williams as Mao. They're the narrator from FMA Brotherhood. Ooh, excellent. And then we got John Swayze as Wong. They also play Gendo Ikari from Evangelion.
The whole cast does amazing. Like, I really love Jason's performance as Hey. He does a great job when he switches between the two personas of like Hey and Lee.
Absolutely. I was kind of floored by how little it took for him to switch between the two, but how impactful it actually ended up being.
No, he does an amazing job. Another standout for me was Kent Williams as Mao. Like we said, also, he does the narrator of FMA Brotherhood. I think just Brotherhood. I don't think he did the original FMA. But his voice coming out of that little cat is... like, it's amusing, but it's also just a delight. His voice is like fucking butter.
It really is. I was always entranced. And it coming out of a little cat is even funnier.
The only letdown, I would say, in the main voice cast is Kate Oxley as Kirihara. She does get better as the show goes on, but she's definitely... I don't want to be mean, because I don't know this woman, and I'm sure she's very nice, but like, she's definitely the...
Would you say she's the weakest link?
Yeah, she's definitely one of the weaker voices, unfortunately, which does cause a problem when she ends up narrating major chunks of the show.
I'm in agreement with you.
Again, she does get better, but at least those first couple episodes, like, I remember in the first episode as I was watching, characters were talking, I was like, ooh, this is a nice dubcast, and then she comes in, I was like, oh, hard left.
Oh no!
So the thing about Darker Than Black as a show is that it has a very specific structure to it. There is an overarching plot, but for the most part, it's more so a series of standalone stories that are connected by this overarching plot. And the first, 90% of the show is just a series of 2-part stories that, in the end, come together to a big finale. The creator, Okamura, he actually decided to do this after his experience working on Cowboy Bebop, which had a very similar story structure.
That makes sense. This was something that kind of took me by surprise. I did go in blind. But I think, historically speaking, that this was a solid choice for something that was being aired weekly or whatever. And I feel like this format could absolutely work for something that is on like a streaming service or meant to be binged.
Mm-hmm.
But to come in as a newcomer, it threw me pretty hard. I don't know if I liked it at the beginning.
I really enjoyed it. Again, as we were just keeping in touch between recordings as we were watching this, I kind of got the feeling that was going to be one of your issues with the show. I thought it was really fun. I enjoyed, like there was the overarching plot connecting stuff, but I liked how it gave it the opportunity to do a lot of interesting things by not trying to be tied down too much by just one, like, major plot.
I enjoyed that. It gave us a lot of character exploration. Like, this show is, you meet an interesting character, you learn something cool about them. That is, like, cut and dry. That's what the show is. So if you like interesting characters doing interesting things, this is so what's up.
Oh, yeah. Of all things, honestly, the thing it reminded me most of is Power Rangers, specifically the Disney era Power Rangers, because they would do that a lot, where it's like one episode, oh, there's a new monster, we're going to fight them, we're going to do some, like, there's going to be a B plot with the Rangers in, like, their civilian forms, and then it's going to end on a tense moment, and then the next episode, they actually find out how to defeat the monster, and then just rinse and repeat for most of the show as there's the overarching plot about defeating the big bad.
I have zero experience with Power Rangers, but that type of plot seems to make a lot of sense. Or that type of structure seems to make a lot of sense.
So here in a bit, what we decided to do is we each picked one of these two-parters that we considered were our favorites, and each of us are going to go over them as we would just like a recap for a full show. But before that, we'll at least do some of like the major overarching plot information so you all have a decent idea of what's going on.
I have some thoughts, but go ahead.
So, the major plot beats. 10 years ago, these two anomalies appeared. There was the Hell's Gate in Japan and Heaven's Gate in South America. And they're basically just these giant, like, areas of the world where if you step inside, shit gets really fucky. Like,
that's apt.
like, physics gets all weird. You could, like, walk through one door and come out another door miles away. People are walking on the sides of buildings. Things get real crazy inside these gates. The gates also marked the appearance of contractors and dolls. Now, this is the important stuff. Pay attention, kids. Contractors are people who have been granted superpowers, but every time they use their power, they have to pay, like, this ritualistic price. One of my favorite examples of that is actually the very first one that we see. It's this dude who can turn off gravity, which that's cool. But then every time he uses his power, he has to break one of his fingers.
That was incredibly jarring to see the first times, but definitely a cool mechanic. I think in my notes somewhere I said, this mechanic would be insanely cool inside of a D&D setting or like some kind of tabletop roleplay.
Oh shit. Oh my god. Right? Official Darker Than Black tabletop RPG.
Which honestly, I would rather play a game version of this than watch the show.
Oh, oof.
Simply, well, okay. Let me back this up just a little bit because I'm fighting words to Beanie over here. But no, it's one thing, and it plays into the two-part episode structure. It plays into the character exploration. I feel like this plot is so cool and it gets completely squandered on some of the stuff that actually takes up the majority of the show. So like taking this idea of these contractors and this gate and some of the other aspects that we'll mention in just a minute. I was thinking how cool of a world that would be to explore if you yourself got to be in that world through like a roleplay situation.
We need to get Renegade Studios in touch with Studio Bones. Get them working together on an RPG.
Listen, let's go. I got the elevator pitch. Let's do this.
And like not all of the prices that the contractors have to pay are like that. Some of them are honestly just really funny. Like there's a dude where like I think he just makes like shock waves of air, like big like blasts. And then whenever he just gets done using his power, he has to eat a hard-boiled egg.
That's better than the really gross one. I guess she has supersonic vocal cords of some flavor that can like crumble buildings and stuff like that. So she does like a huge vocal performance as an attack, and then she just has to eat cigarettes.
Yeah, like straight up just a handful of cigarettes down her throat. Yeah, some of them are gross, some of them are painful, some of them are just really silly. I think there was another one where like he uses his powers and then he has to grab a book and like dog ear the pages, like every single page.
Yeah.
Or there was that dude in the OVA where he teleports, but then once he gets done teleporting, he has to tell a secret to the nearest person.
I love that. They never explained how you find out about your payment, did they?
No, that's one of the many things that the show kind of leaves up as like a mystery. It's like, it leaves it up to your interpretation. My assumption is that it's just like, because apparently these people just wake up one day and have their powers and are aware of their powers. I assume it's also just this natural impulse. Like the first time that you light a dude on fire with your brain, you suddenly have this incredible urge to go swim.
I would like a light novel about that, I think. Like, what's the internal conversation that you're having with yourself when you have to do these things?
So yeah, that's the contractors. The other thing that appears are these things called dulls, which I say appears. It's actually more that just random people get turned into these things. But dulls are people who have been fully robbed of emotion to the point of just being like robots, essentially. But they have the power to send these like ghost-like creatures called specters out and see through them. And like each doll can send a specter through a different material. Like there's the main one, Yin, who is a part of like our main characters group or their little party, and she can send them through water. Then there's ones that are controlled by the government and used by security, and they travel through like the power lines. There's another one where her specters can only go through concrete. It's stuff like that.
Oh, in talking about the dolls, there was a piece that's important to mention about the contractors in that they also are robbed of their human emotions.
Yeah, you're right. Like dolls, it's just fully like you are an emotional blank slate. You're basically not a person anymore. Whereas contractors, I jokingly put in my note that they're just autistic.
Oh my god. I had the same thought, but I didn't write it down.
No, they just, because the way they explain it, because this is a big focal point of the show and a lot of the, like, the themes that it tries to tackle, like, ooh, what makes a man, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And one of the many ways that they try and explain it is, like, they just have their self-preservation instinct, and that takes priority, so they're not dragged down by, like, morality or, like, caring about other people, blah, blah, blah. But then you also have other characters who are like, oh, contractors don't have dreams, contractors don't have wants, they're not real people, they just pretend to be people. This is a big, recurring theme that, even I will admit, not handled the best in certain parts.
I am inclined to agree. It felt exceptionally ableist for several minutes.
Oh,
Lots of the time.
I wasn't even thinking about ableism, I was just thinking about bad writing.
Oh, I mean, that too, but I think those two things go hand in hand pretty well.
Fair enough. So already, we're piling a lot on the audience. Like, you got the contractors, you get the dolls, you have all their specific mechanics, you got the gates. We're not done.
Nope, it keeps going.
When the gates appeared, the sky was replaced with a new one, filled with new stars, and for some reason, each of the stars is connected to a contractor. If a contractor dies, that star falls like a meteor. In a show full of, like, weird metaphysical stuff and, like, really heady aspects, this is one of the weirder ones.
It's so weird, but it's so poetic and beautiful.
Oh, it's really cool, don't get me wrong. It also just doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, not a lick.
This is one of the parts of the show where if you think about it too hard, you start feeling like maybe there's some cracks. Like, okay, the sky was replaced with a new sky. Is it like a force field that's around the planet? Like, we can't see what they call like the old stars or the real stars, but like, can we still send up rockets, or like, can things fall down? Like, it was anyone who was living up on the International Space Station just fucked? How far does the range go? Is it actually further than the space station? Are they fine? Like, those are things that they leave up to interpretation, maybe not for the better, but also if they had taken the time to explain those things, I don't know if it was really necessary.
2 points. So they don't take the time to explain it. That's my biggest gripe with this show, is they just simply do not take the time to play with this ultra fucking cool lore that they have. And 2, I do think that the loss of the stars is sort of like really, really deep, in that the contractors lose their sense of humanity, and so the Earth losing its place in the galaxy is kind of symbolic. But I feel like by not explaining things and not exploring that lore, we lose that sense of loss that it's echoing, which is really unfortunate, because like I said, this lore is insanely cool, but they just don't play with it enough.
Yeah, like, I was thinking to myself, like, on the one hand, I would like if they had delved more into these things. Like I was saying, give more of an explanation of this new sky and how that works. Mm-hmm. But then also, did I really want another exposition dump?
Well, no, and I think in my notes I have something about how at the beginning of this series there's little to no hand-holding, storytelling-wise, which, oh my god, I love that. But then we get into these high concept things, and I want a little bit of hand-holding. Like, I don't want a big lore dump. We got that with one of the scientist characters. I hated that. Don't tell me about things. I don't want to hear about them. I want to be shown these things. I want, there was a mechanic that I'll talk about a little later where they got to see ghosts effectively. And that is such a fantastic storytelling mechanic that we just don't get anymore, which is sad. I'm sad about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I do really like what you were talking about, how when the show starts out, it just drops you right the fuck in. Like, it's naming off all these concepts. It's like, oh, that guy's a contractor. Oh, he's got to pay his price. That's a doll. She's sending out a specter. Oh, I wonder what happened to the sky. And they're just putting you in there as if you are actually just an inhabitant of the world. No one's taking a second. There's no, there's no character who, like, hey, I just woke up from an 11-year coma. What's been going on, guys? Like, no one is explaining anything to the audience for most of the show. And so it does lead to this thing where, like, it's not that there is a mystery because the characters all know what's going on, but you, the audience, are only learning about the world as the characters interact with the world, which personally I thought was really fucking fun, really cool. But I also know that there are people who didn't enjoy that aspect of the show and would have enjoyed not going in so blind, because I do know that there were a lot of people when the show first came out and they were watching through, they were just confused more than they were entertained.
Absolutely. Now, I enjoy, it's not really the feeling of figuring out a mystery, but figuring out context. And I think early on they do a pretty decent job of that. It's there if you want it, but it doesn't necessarily affect the enjoyment of the show if you turn your brain off. Like, if you are just simply watching to watch with no analytical anything, it's really still fucking cool show. You can get little tidbits, you can get stuff like that. It reminds me of a video game I play where if you don't really want to engage with the lore, you don't really have to. You can just shoot stuff. And I feel like that is employed here, for me, to a fault, but for, like, the average viewer, it's pretty cool.
That was one of the bigger aspects that I was really excited to talk about with you, who is fresh to the show. Because as far as I can remember, when I originally watched this back in high school, I didn't have a problem with it. But there was a part of me watching it now where I was like, I did not remember all of this show. There was a lot that I had forgotten, but I did remember enough to where, like, I knew about things before the show told me, so I kind of had just, like, a primer going in, I guess you could say. I was really excited to talk to you about this aspect of the show and how it's structured, to see how an actual fresh-faced viewer would still think about that particular story structure. So I was really excited to get to this part, and I'm really happy to know that you still enjoyed it, even though you didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yes. And I don't mind media that doesn't tell me everything. Like, I unfortunately admit I'm very into Star Wars. Every single rock has a fucking name in Star Wars. Every single everything, down to the grains of sand, has lore, has something to engage with, has some kind of tidbit that you can know.
You like jizz?
Listen, there's a very cute story about that. I want to talk about that somewhere, but maybe not today.
Oh, sorry, they changed it to jats, didn't they?
Oh god, I probably... Oh, I lost my train of thought completely. Why'd you have to say jizz? So I'm coming from a place that has as much lore as you want. You can engage with all of it. I don't mind media that gives us less. It lets you fill in the cracks on your own. I just lament that there wasn't more to play with. But I think as far as like, is this show entertaining? 125%. This show is exceptionally entertaining. I just want to grab on to more lore. I want to make this role-playing game so that I can play in this setting more. No, really, I'm gonna go find them. I'm gonna be like, hey, let me draw this. Let's make this into a thing. But from just a casual watching standpoint, this is a fantastic show.
So this is something I was actually saving until like the end of the podcast to bring up, but there is a second season of this, Darker Than Black, Gemini of the Meteor, I believe is what it's called. Yeah, Gemini of the Meteor. And there was also a third, like, not a third season, but like an OVA called Darker Than Black Gaiden, which I believe, despite coming out after the second season, is actually set between the two seasons. I've never seen Darker Than Black Gaiden. I remember that we watched season 2 in Anime Club. Don't remember anything about it. But there is a chance that some of these complaints that we have about, like, not enough explanation, maybe they're answered in these later parts?
I hope so. I will probably not be finding out.
Spoil your full opinions, why don't you?
I will say that some of this format, some of this storytelling, it was just a slog for me. And I recognize why after the fact. And it's because I don't particularly care for noir as a style or as a story vehicle. And this show is noir to the core. And I think that it definitely has its merits. Like, I don't want to discount an entire genre simply because I don't enjoy it. But, like, I think that noir-style stories work a whole lot better in established sandboxes versus this one that has, again, all this cool shit going on. But, like a historical noir, that totally makes sense. I have all the context. It's all there. Or any other well-established context rather than a new setting like this one. But, again, it does not take away from the watchability of it. Not really. Like, some things are going to be a slog simply because you're not interested or whatever. Maybe not invested in the characters. Unlike what we're about to talk about with our picks for the 2 episodes. Little story snippets.
Yeah. Real quick, not getting too deep into like final thoughts, because obviously I want to save that for the end. But on the point that you just made, how much of it would you say is due to the actual quality of the show versus just you not particularly being a fan of the genre?
Oh, it's mostly me. I'd say this show probably like 60 to 80% of the time is doing a fantastic job at using its story genre, at telling these stories, and it was just simply me not enjoying them.
Okay.
I took issue with some of the characters specifically, which they're telling all of these stories through the characters, thus that those parts and those stories were not as interesting. But everybody's different, so.
Yeah, that is one of the drawbacks of the way that the show is structured with, like, the series of little vignette two-parters, however you want to say it. Not all of them are going to be winners.
No, definitely not. There were some recurring characters that I just kind of groaned when they were on screen.
Oh, I hope it wasn't the detective guy, because I really liked him.
I hated his first 2-episode thing, but it got a lot better. I warmed up to them a whole lot more later.
He was him and his fucking weeb-ass partner. I loved those two. Every time they were on screen, I was so happy. So it's occurred to me that we've spent this long talking about the show. We haven't actually gone over our main characters yet, so let's do that real quick.
Whoopsie doodle.
It's a good thing I said at the start of this episode it was going to be a little all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, going over our main cast real quick. You got Hay, or Lee, as he is known, depending on which of his personas he's taking on. I see people on the internet refer to him as anime Batman a lot. I don't think that fits. I don't understand why people call him that. Is it just because he's the main dude in a noir setting and he has a grappling hook?
I would assume that is why, because that's where the similarities between Hay and Batman sort of end. He is pretty broody. I'll give him that, but
Yeah, but Batman doesn't electrocute people.
no, but they do. Batman has two personalities.
Yeah, still a very loose connection. Yeah, Hay is a member of what is only ever referred to as the Syndicate, which is this shadowy fucking crime organization, which you don't really learn about until like the very last episode. They're just kind of looming over in the background as a combination threat and boss.
Yeah, they're very threatening the entire time while still maintaining that authority over everybody, or at least everybody in this inside of the syndicate.
Yeah. Other members of Hay's specific party within the syndicate, you have Mao, the talking cat.
Kind of my favorite outside of Hay.
Mao is fucking great. He's a sassy little bastard. Mao, we get backstory that Mao was originally a human. He was a contractor who his power was that he could jump between, he could like send his soul into different animals. But something happened and now his main body is that of a cat. He can still like jump between things, like he likes to jump between like he likes to jump into a crow sometimes so he can fly around and do aerial reconnaissance, but for the most part, he's just a cat, which really makes me think of fucking, I don't know if you ever read Animorphs, but Tobias, the boy who got trapped inside a hawk.
Yes, their stories seem to be pretty similar in that regard.
Next up you have Yin, who is our party's resident doll. She's the one where she can send her specters through water. Yin is so fucking cute.
Yeah, she's so cute and her story's so sad.
It is. I almost wanted to cover that story as like my two-parter, but there was another one that I wanted more.
That was my second choice. That's amazing.
It's so good. Yin is great. God, okay. In her two-parter, that bit at the end where like she finally like she musters a little smile. Ugh.
I love it. I love it later when she's a fucking otaku.
Well, when she's friends with the otaku, the detective otaku, you made it sound like she's just banging each other.
Oh, sorry. No, I mean, I'd kind of ship it, but...
Oh, for sure. Well, how old are they?
Oh, God, wait, yeah, hang on.
And then you have who is like, I don't want to say the boss, but he's like the, what's the term? Like the wrangler, I guess?
I'd say like a lead, maybe?
Yeah, you have Huang, who is kind of the go-between between Hay's little group and the actual syndicate itself. Like, he's the one where he's like, all right, guys, the syndicate wants us to go and steal this thing. Blah, blah, blah. You're all motherfuckers. Fuck contractors.
Yeah, he really hates contractors.
For not undeniable reasons, which we can get to later.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'll probably cry.
That's fine. That's good audio.
Valid.
And then the last character I want to touch on real quick that we could also call a main character is Detective Kirihara, who is on the other side of things, a policewoman cop who keeps bumping into Hay, sometimes because the syndicate is like, hey, go fuck with this thing that the cops also happen to be involved in, sometimes by the funniest fucking coincidence.
They're so cute. Like, I was kind of rooting for them.
While I don't agree with the whole Hay being anime Batman thing, the closest comparison I can put between those two is Batman and Catwoman in a very funny way.
I could totally see that.
But Hay gets to be Catwoman.
I kind of want to draw her that way. Yeah.
Draw Hay in the Catwoman outfit.
Listen, don't give me reason to draw Hay. He's so pretty.
Were there any characters? I think that could pretty definitively be considered our like main cast. Were there any characters that you want to go over real quick, just to add on?
Not until I get to my two.
Okay. Well, in that case, let's get to your two, because that's next.
Yay! All right.
So your little two-parter, your focus storyline was when one takes back what was lost within the wall.
Oh, mine was translated different. Mine says within the wall when you recover something lost.
Oh, interesting. Mine, I pulled my translation from Wikipedia.
Oh, mine's from the Darker Than Black wiki.
Oh, interesting.
I think you get the idea, though.
Yeah.
Of what the name of it is. Also
important to point out that all the fucking episodes are like this. Just
yeah, they all have super poetic, long Fallout Boy names. But yeah, so this is episode 11 and 12. Hay goes to infiltrate this place called Pandora. It's located kind of near Hell's Gate, but his main mission is to recover a meteor fragment, which a lot of people are after. That's like super duper important. It's also really pretty.
Now, MaeMae, can you explain to me what the meteor fragment is? Because the show did a bad job.
I have no idea what a meteor fragment is.
It just
I can make a guess, but
it just
definitively,
looks like a little circle
no.
of glass.
Yeah, it's like a pretty rock,
Everyone
which is
wants
fine.
this
I like
rock.
pretty rocks. Yeah, everybody wanted this rock, and so he gets a job as a janitor and has to like clean up this scientific lab sort of situation. And he meets a couple of people. The one I really want to talk about, his name is Nick.
Yes, telescope
And
boyfriend.
oh my god, telescope boyfriend, not astrology, astronomy boyfriend. But yeah, he meets Nick. Nick is a scientist, and Nick is just so perfect. I love him so much. But yeah, he's trying to get the old stars back, so like our original stars. He wants to see the original night sky, not this replacement that is the contractor sky full of fake stars. But they go on this cute little date, and they go look through the telescope together, and it's just, it's so cute.
It's really adorable. I almost teared up a little bit because, part of it was
did.
just because it was so cute, but then there was a part of me that was like, I want them to kiss, but I know they're never gonna kiss.
Yeah, no, I had basically the same note as that. Oh, I might have to go find some fanfic because this is just perfect.
I was also upset because, I don't know if this is going to step on toes of how you want to cover things, but I was also upset just because it was very obvious who Nick was, we'll say, and it's like, oh, this isn't going to end well at all.
Yeah, it didn't work out, unfortunately. Before we get to the unfortunate part, I'll talk about Mina.
Mina!
She's a little cutie. I like her. She's hella nervous. She is Hayes' contact within Pandora. That way he's kind of got like a man on the inside. And she keeps continually fucking up and getting in trouble. And it doesn't go very well for her. But she kind of figures out what's going on. And she's also kind of got a crush on Hay too, which is really cute. Because everybody does. Because Hay is fucking adorable.
Here's the thing. This is one of my biggest complaints with the show, because the show just outwardly lies to the audience. Because they try to tell us that Hay's power as a contractor is being able to generate electricity. Hay's actual contractor power is making people horny.
Listen, I am in 100% agreement. Like I said, the very first note I even have on this show is, hello, beautiful man with a beautiful voice. Because holy cow, he's so pretty.
He's so cute. Like, you either got, like, dark, sexy bad boy as Hay, or you have just, like, absolute sweetheart himbo as Lee.
Listen, and those just press all the buttons all at once, like when you hit every button on a phone. It's perfect. He's perfect. I love Hay. I love Lee. It doesn't matter which one. I love both of them.
You think Hay is a bottom?
Yeah, but I think he's a brat.
Moving on.
Because I think Lee is a service top.
Moving on.
I broke Beanie. Alright, anyway. So everybody's in love with Hay. Everybody's in love with Lee. We get it. He's a hottie. But Nick, they go on this beautiful little date, and they have incredible dialogue. At some point, Nick says, "We're the same." And I started crying. Like, there's just a bunch of keyboard spam where I was trying to write something, it didn't fucking work. There's a whole bunch of action that happens. I don't want to, like, take you step by step through it, but effectively, we find out through a sequence of insane events that Nick is this secret killer that has been murdering people. And so they run across a team that from the science lab, and every single one of them is dead, and they have their boots sitting next to them. I believe they're upside down.
Yeah, that's his like contractor payment, as he kills somebody and then he has to set those shoes upside down.
Yeah. But yeah, so Nick is down in like the locker room, and he's got the meteor fragment, and he gets cornered by this guy with a gun and turns around and kills said guy, is in the process of turning his shoes over, and in walks Lee.
Oof.
And you're like, oh fuck.
Now, I'm having a brain fart. What was his actual contractor power? Oh, wait, no, he has the same thing as, hey, he's got, electric powers.
That's right. We're the same. That was part of the we're the same. That was foreshadowing into they have the exact same power, more or less.
Yeah, because doesn't the, so, like, my two-parter, I went back and, like, rewatched them because it had been a second, and I wanted to, like, get things deep in my brain. But these episodes, it's been a month or two since I actually watched them. Wasn't at least the first episode of the two-parter kind of structured to that you're kind of questioning, like, wait, is Lee the one doing the killing? Is this Hay doing it?
Yes, it's very much a whodunit. They don't know who's killing these research teams. I think that's one of the reasons. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Hay goes in the first place. Is they suspect a contractor. But yeah, Nick is trying to get the meteor fragment out of the Pandora facility. I believe it's the CIA is gonna pay him a whole bunch of money, and he's gonna go work for NASA and see the stars again.
Yeah, that's his big emotional trauma that every new two-parter character has to have.
Yeah, they have some serious trauma, no matter who they are, but that's Nick's, is he really wants to see the stars again. But, there was a thing that I kind of skimmed over earlier, in that, when you get into this Pandora facility, you can experience these, like, visions of people. They call them ghosts or seeing ghosts, and it affects certain people more than it affects other people, but it causes Lee, or Hay, to kind of freak out sometimes and not be able to stay undercover as a janitor.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of the fucky wucky that we mentioned with the Hell's Gate, Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, because to be specific, Pandora, or like their whole thing is researching the gate and those phenomena and everything. And the offices of Pandora, like their whole thing, are built into the wall that surrounds Hell's Gate, which is like 2 miles thick or some shit.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, so they're close enough to the fucky wucky zone that even when they're not actually in it, they're experiencing some fucky wucky.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like radiation.
Also, here's a good question for you. Do you remember what Pandora stands for?
All of it.
Because it's a dumb fucking acronym.
I know the last bit is like research agency.
Physical quantity, that's one word. Physical quantity, alternation, natural deconstruction, organized research agency. Fuck you.
What the fuck? They stretched real hard for that one.
It reminds me.
Jeez.
Do you remember when fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was first coming out, like post-Avengers? There was a trailer for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where this dude was being interrogated, and they were like, they read over the S.H.I.E.L.D. acronym, like what S.H.I.E.L.D. stands for. I don't remember that. And they asked him, like, do you know what that means? Do you know what that stands for? And the dude's just like, I think it means someone really wanted your name to spell out S.H.I.E.L.D.
I don't think I ever saw that, but that is incredibly apt. But yeah, so they experience all kinds of weird shit when they're in there. So they're having a moment. Nick tries to kill Hay. Their powers are basically the same, so they get canceled out. And then this really cute thing happens. And this is the second reason why this is the one that I picked. When they have both of their blue auras activate, because they're both contractors, they attempt to like kill each other. But then their blue auras kind of like take over, and suddenly they're stuck in this like ball thing. I don't really know. They're in like a little enclosed space. And it's like this, the style changes. And things start to get a whole lot more yellow and a whole lot more cute, and Nick rapidly de-ages until he's like a little boy. And you see the sky open up above them, and it has the actual stars in it. And it kind of gets a little bit weirder. But then there's this big rocket ship, like a NASA style rocket ship. And Nick gets up into it, and there's a little bit of dialogue about, we're gonna go look at the real stars. And he's like this little boy. And I believe it's his sister that's in the rocket ship with him. And they blast off and go out into the sky. And it's really sweet and it's really sad. But effectively that means that Nick dies, which crushed. The gay had to die.
MaeMae, I need you to understand, I've watched this show, and even then, listening to you explain what just happened, I have no idea what the fuck happened.
Listen, I was so incredibly confused, but it was so enchanting and the emotional resonance was so strong. It made it my most favorite episode, two-parter of the entire show. I have it in my notes. Where is it? I might like this show because of these episodes. But yeah, I have no idea. I guess it's because their powers were the same, so they canceled each other out, and then there was a weird Pandora Hell's Gate flare up, and it gave them this hallucination of what Nick really wanted. I'm not entirely sure why he turned into a little baby. Like he's like a little kid. Like he's like 5.
He's just a little guy.
I guess he's just a little guy, and he's very chibi and very cute, and I don't understand the sister thing as much. But I know he really wanted to see the real stars again. Like that's his childlike innocence about the stars, I guess. But yeah, they get in a cute little cartoon rocket ship and just go boo all the way up to the stars. And Hay's just standing there like, what the fuck? And you're just standing there like, what the fuck?
I reopened my actual episode notes, like what I'm typing out as I'm watching for these episodes, and all I have written down is, what in the good goddamn? I don't understand what the fuck just happened, but I'm having a lot of fun.
I think I have that in various different forms for every episode, because there's always a little bit of what the fuck is going on in each of these episodes. It's just this one was gay and cute, and that made it my favorite.
I'm also noticing I have one of my notes I quoted, I think this is Nick explaining the meteor fragment to Hay or something, but I just have written down, it's a spark that escapes from heaven when God leaves the door open for a minute. Fucking what?
Oh my god, yeah. Like, Nick speaks very weird. He really connects with Hay, though, and he lets his little weird out, and it's just really cute.
Anything else you gotta cover for this, for your two-parter? Any closing thoughts?
I will say, and this has kind of been my notes throughout, is one of my notes says I'm digging this setup a lot. It's more science-y and a tiny little bit more of what's going on. Yay, gate lore!
Yeah, I feel like these were the first episodes that really started, like, we'll say, explaining things, to put it simply.
Well, and it wasn't just simply a scientist telling you what's going on. Like, it was exposition, or it was not exposition, it was action.
So, continuing on with just like the basic plot synopsis, or as much as we can give, because those were, what was that, episodes 11 and 12?
Yes.
Episode 15 introduces our antagonist, doesn't really fit so well. We'll go with person of conflict. Episode 15 introduces our main person of conflict with Amber, who is basically just leading the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants from X-Men.
Yeah, that's incredibly accurate.
Would you like to explain Amber and what is it, Evening Primrose to the audience?
I don't, because I don't like Amber. Evening Primrose is one of the coolest names for an organization I have ever heard of before, but to your point, they wanted to reveal contractors to the public.
Not just reveal contractors to the public, they wanted contractors to be treated equally to humans.
Yeah. So yeah, your X-Men is right on top of it. Like, they are literally just, contractors are people too. We need rights.
Yeah, because up until this point, contractors are basically just, you're either an attack dog for the government, or you're an attack dog for some crime organization.
Mm-hmm.
So episodes 15 and 16 are the ones where, like, we get the introduction of Amber and Evening Primrose and all that. I really liked those episodes, because I feel like the first half of the show did a really good job of getting me interested in the characters and setting up their dynamics, while, like, every so often teasing, like, ooh, there's going to be more to come, something's going to happen. And then this is when that something more does come, and at that point I'm just, like, extra invested.
That's fair. This is kind of where I checked out, honestly.
Oh, no.
There were a lot... No, I feel bad because you're so excited about it, but yeah, there were so many new organizations, so many new characters just suddenly here and being involved in the story. I got a note that says double cross. Oh, whoa. It says, I feel like the strings are starting to come together, but still waiting for them to weave so I can see the pattern. So I was invested, but there was just so much happening all at once that I feel like a little bit of their plain intentions got a little skewed.
I think I can understand that. I definitely, my take from that was just like, I was just excited. I was just excited to see, like, oh shit, what's going to happen? Like, what are going to be the consequences of this? Like, I was fully drawn in, but I can also understand just feeling like, I don't know, would you say you were just feeling a little overwhelmed by that point?
I think so. Because at this point, I was still holding out for a little bit more of that plot, because I guess I hadn't got it through my head that that's not what the show was. You'd think by episode 16 or 17 I would have figured it out, but it did take me a minute.
One point I do want to make, like, up until this point, I have mainly been on this show's side, but even I have my complaints. And one of my complaints is that the show does kind of have this habit of, like, they'll set a status quo and then almost instantly break it. Like, contractors don't have emotions or dreams. Well, except for these ones. Dolls don't have wills of their own. Well, except for these ones.
Yeah, and that as a concept, like, contractors don't have blank, but these do. I don't mind that, but I don't feel like they were introduced or brought into the story in a way that was compelling enough for that to work.
Yeah.
Like, I get it with Hay, I get it with Lee. That makes all the sense in the world. But, like, here's just some randos, but they feel things. Like, that takes away from the core concept, I guess, without having any substance to back it up.
Yeah, and like they do, near the end, they do try to give an explanation for the whole, like, oh, this is why these contractors have emotions, but it comes up so late that it ends up feeling a little lazy to me.
Yeah.
I feel like it could have been hinted at more across the show or just like covered earlier in the show.
I'm in total agreement. I wanted a little bit more build up to what we were introduced to, especially in the second half.
It also just, because there's so much going on in the ending, it kind of just gets overshadowed by everything else that happens and it just kind of falls flat.
Yeah, definitely.
This isn't on the exact same wavelength as those complaints, but I can segue into it pretty decently. There was also this one moment where, like, I think Kirihara was talking to her scientist friend and they were just like updating each other on what's going on. And I basically condensed down their conversation into, no one's ever been able to link these sunspots to any other phenomena. Unrelated, but the last time these sunspots happened, there was this weird phenomena.
Oh my god. Yeah. I remember that scene.
A lot of the show just seems to, like, not contradict itself, but, like, it'll try and establish something, and then so quickly afterward it's like, nah, fuck you, it's actually this. And it's really weird.
Especially from, like, a storytelling point of view. Like, why do you... And it might be some, like, overarching theming that I'm missing, but why are you so wanting to establish a thing and then immediately subvert that thing?
Yeah.
Which I guess thinking about it now, that's what people are doing to contractors, is you have this set expectation on what a contractor has to be, and then they do something and you're like, oh, I guess they don't have to be like that. Which, that's cool character growth. We get to see that with Hay and a couple of other characters, but I just don't think it was handled as effectively as it could have been.
Oh, definitely could have been handled better. Like, that's one of my biggest complaints with the show.
Yeah.
There's also that one storyline with the girl who sets people on fire with her mind, and they introduce this concept of being a moratorium, which is like a halfway point between being a contractor and being a doll, and it's never brought up again, and it just feels unnecessary.
I was so incredibly lost on that episode, but I immediately forgot that I was lost because that episode has some weird acting in it.
Oh, yeah. The girl who gets lit on fire and her scream is just like, she sounds bored.
She does. It's like, her life is not in danger. She's riding a really pathetic roller coaster, but she's actually on fire. It was incredibly... I didn't even think about the moratorium after that, but you're 100% correct.
The whole idea is that they're like contractors without control over their powers, but like just make her a contractor who can't control her powers or something. Don't go adding this new shit that doesn't even end up being important.
No, it didn't. I don't think that warranted as much attention as it got. It could have just been that she simply did not have control, which tracks because she was like a teenager. So
yeah, but yeah, those are kind of just some quick points that I wanted to get over before we get to my two-parter, Dreaming Shallow, Uninebriated, which is our Huang backstory. So, years ago, Huang was a detective named Kuno. During an investigation, he falls in love with this woman named Shioko. I pronounced that weird the first time. Eventually, it turns out that Shioko was actually a contractor who was only getting close to Huang/Kuno. I'm probably going to be going back and forth on them, just like I do Hay and Lee. But she was only getting close to him in order to find out information regarding the case he was working on, and she ends up killing his partner in front of him and also the partner's wife. Her contractor power is just making people's organs explode.
Yeah.
It looks real wicked.
It does look really insane.
Back in the modern day, Lee is assigned to assassinate a contractor named Alma, who is leading this, like, cult that worships the gate. And they actually have this is one of the bits of world building I really like, where they mention, like, yeah, ever since the gates popped up a decade ago, there's been a bunch of new, like, cults and religions, all of them just, like, worshipping the gates as, like, these holy things, which, like, that's cool world building. That's believable.
Yeah, I very much like that. The evangelists at the beginning kind of threw me because they were so incredibly incredibly lifelike.
Oh god, that was a really good bit, because you've got fucking, like, trained assassin mercenary Hay just getting accosted by these two old ladies, and he just has no idea what to do.
No, he has no idea how to handle them. I loved that. I felt like that was a fantastic way to introduce the cult.
Yeah, the Syndicate has a mole inside the cult to help Hay get in, and dun dun dun, it turns out to be Shioko.
Bum, bum, bum.
We find out that after Huang's partner got murdered, the Syndicate wiped the memories of the wife, like the partner's wife, and then they came to Huang and they're like, hey, join us, or we'll have your memories erased too. And Huang's just like, yeah, sure, alright, pretty much. Which, MaeMae, have you ever seen Breaking Bad?
Oh my god, yes.
I'm sorry, it's just like, after someone close to him is killed, this grizzled old former cop joins a criminal organization to make ends meet. Huang is just anime Mark Erbintrout.
I'm so upset with you because you're so right. Oh my god.
I love that as soon as I was like, have you ever seen Breaking Bad? You're just like, you motherfucker.
Yeah, because I'm so upset. Because it's perfect, and they're the same character.
Moving on. Hay discovers that the cult leader Alma is supplying this large number of dolls to Amber and Evening Primrose to help with their mysterious plans. When Hay finally finds Alma to kill her, we get this really excellent exchange between the two of them, where she talks about how she hates how contractors are seen as just tools for humans, and she wishes they could be equal. And this was the exchange between Hay and Alma, as Alma's like sitting in her bed and talking about the relationship between humans and contractors. This was the part that made these my favorites, because I really liked their exchange and like her speech and what Hay took from it and everything. Because Hay starts arguing that contractors are just heartless killing machines, because even though he's a contractor himself, doesn't really like contractors very much. He's kind of on the side of like, no, fuck us, we get what we deserve, sort of. And he's like, the exchange is pretty much just like, yeah, well, contractors kill people and don't feel guilty about it. And almost like, okay, neither do a lot of human killers.
Yeah, that was a turning point for me. I really enjoyed that exchange after that came out.
Okay, but contractors use their powers to kill people. Sure, but humans don't have powers, and they sure do a lot of killing. I just love that every single thing, every point he tries to make, almost just like, sweetie.
I love, she definitely sweeties him the whole time. But she's absolutely right. And I feel like he gets a little frustrated by that.
Yeah, that was the other thing, is that it's not just that we have this really great moment, like just this well-written scene, very good atmosphere, good points being made, but it actually, you see that it sticks with Hay. Like, he takes her words to heart, and it does have an effect on future events, which I really appreciated.
I did really enjoy the writing specifically for it, because all she's doing is pointing out something that he should have already noticed, but he's so consumed with what a contractor is or is not that he just completely skips over the fact that, humans do the same damn thing.
This was one of the moments in the show that really engaged me as I was watching. Like, once that scene was over, I was like, oh shit, I haven't been writing any notes this entire time, because I was just too focused on watching the show.
This is one of the episodes I don't have enough notes about, because there was so much to really sink your teeth into and think about, and I was too busy thinking.
Interspersed throughout these two episodes, we get flashbacks to Huang and Shioko's relationship before the whole murder thing, and personally, I think it's some of the best emotional beats of the whole show.
Ugh, yeah.
Like, even though you know that he's just getting played, the chemistry between them feels so real and heartwarming, and it's probably the best job the show does playing with the whole idea of, are contractors really emotionless? Like, okay, sure, she was acting, but how much of it was an act,
Right, because it comes off as natural. You get completely disarmed, just like Kuno does.
There's this really great moment where, after a night of drinking, the two of them are, like, sitting by a stream, and Huang confesses that he wants to marry her, and she gets this look on her face, like, you can just tell that she's weighing her options. Like, oh, fuck, I might actually like this weird little idiot.
Oh,
Shioko's...
I'm gonna cry again.
Shioko's whole character is like a huge highlight of these episodes. Like it's that speech with Alma and just Shioko, period. Made even better thanks to the talent of Lydia McKay. I think that's how you say it, McKay, who also plays the Elric brothers' mother in both Full Metal Alchemist anime.
Oh my god. Well, speaking of emotional resonance, God.
So, continuing on, because of trauma, Hong doesn't want to kill Shioko, even though he was ordered to by the Syndicate, and he even goes so far as to tell Hei to kill them both so he doesn't have to go through with it. Instead, Hei actually, like I said, he takes Alma's words to heart and is like, I'm tired of being a puppet to the Syndicate, fuck this, and he tries to help the two of them escape. But in the end, Shioko chooses to take her own life rather than endanger Huang. She like jumps in front of a truck and kills herself so that he doesn't have to get in trouble, and like they're on the run from the Syndicate, and I cried a lot.
When you explain it that way, I feel different about it, because when I was watching, I interpreted it as they took her out instead of she chose. And I was like, well, that was really convenient, and now this has zero emotional resonance, because all they did was put her in front of Wong, and then now she's not there, so he can just do his job again.
See, I'm gonna assume that the reason you read it like that is because there's that little scene where like they get to the docks to like board a boat and flee, and you see this quick little shot of like there's a very obvious like Syndicate agent or someone hiding behind a shipping container ready to like fuck them up.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe it is kind of more up in the air than I'm thinking, but what I took of that is that Shioko saw him and was like, oh, this isn't going to work. And so that's when she decides to like jump in front of the truck and kill herself just so that they don't have to fall into the trap. But you took that as like the hint to the audience that they're about to fall into a trap.
Yep, I think you're right. I like your interpretation better, so I'm gonna say that that's what happened.
I don't want to say you're wrong. I do think I'm right, but I might be putting my own play on it, and maybe that is actually what was intended. I don't know.
I'm not sure, because either way, like, if you look at it from your perspective, that is an incredible wrap-up of her giving this huge sacrifice, that she felt guilty that he had to sacrifice everything because of her, so then she turned it around and sacrificed herself for him. That's perfect. That bookends that story. It's a nice way to end things. If you take it the way I took it, it robs the whole entire thing of emotional resonance with Wong and... Sorry, say her name again?
Shioko.
And everything that they had built together is just suddenly robbed, which also works because I think the Syndicate would absolutely do something like that to manipulate Wong into what they need. Thus, he wouldn't have the motivation to get back at the Syndicate later, like he does.
Okay, I think my interpretation of it also works a lot because then it plays into the beats that we have with what Shioko's payment is, which is that after she uses her powers, suddenly she gets her human's emotions back, and she gets to feel the crushing weight of guilt.
Yeah. Well, I guess it would be fine if it was ambiguous, because all outcomes reflect a piece of her story.
As we're talking about this, I'm having this thought of like, damn, maybe the show is better than I thought, and I already liked it.
Yeah, I think because and this is kind of going back to just plot stuff in general, but I think my initial impression was that I didn't enjoy it because there wasn't enough to sink my teeth into, and they kind of pushed off things that I would be interested in. But now that I'm thinking more critically about it, I think there is more to chew into, and I am enjoying it more than I initially was.
Yes, come to my side.
I'm still not gonna rate this high enough that I'm gonna watch it again.
Understandable. But yeah, like, final thoughts. Between the gripping emotional beats of Huang's relationship with Shioko, the way they handled the whole human versus contractor stuff with Alma and Hei and all that, and just the soundtrack really puts in the work on these episodes.
Oh my god. It never quits.
So good. But yeah, these were definitely my favorite episodes in terms of just pure quality.
I'm in agreement. These are the two that I had my full attention again. I really love the setup. I really love the cult aspect of it that brought in a believable piece of world building that I really enjoyed. I felt bad for Wong the whole time, but I will complain a little bit more. I'm gonna take the mic. I'm gonna complain. There was so much beauty in, honestly, both of the two that we picked. So much deep emotional resonance. And for those things to be so impactful and so poetic, I hate the ending.
Yeah, no, the ending...
I hate it so much.
The ending, like, okay, I don't want to go too deep into spoilers on this one, but the ending does just kind of, I feel like the ending started out good and then it just stops. Like, the ending just comes out of fucking nowhere, and then you got fucking Kirihara narrating and is basically just like, and after all that, we went back to our normal lives. Bye, see you in season 2.
Oh my god. I screamed. The people I was watching with screamed. I threw shit. I was like, are you kidding me?
It was really bad.
I quoted that. That's my last note for episode 25. Not longer after that, we went back to our regular lives. What
the fuck?
There are 7 question marks.
It's not
my least favorite kind of ending.
And it's not even like, I don't know, it's really hard to talk about this without spoilers, because I really don't want to go deep into spoilers with this one, unlike some others.
Right.
But like, there were a lot of aspects of the ending that I really did enjoy, like the big revelation with Hay and like his sister and how the problem is solved. I don't know. You might not have enjoyed it. I think that was really cool. I thought it was fun, but the ending does just ends. It just stops. That's it. Yeah, that's it. It doesn't end. It stops.
Yeah, it's they ran out of time. That's what it felt like. But I liked the thing with the sister, but I felt like it needed way more. Like, they needed their own 2-episode exploration of that specifically, without a lot of the other stuff, or maybe expanding on some of the other stuff. I feel like this could have done better as a 4-episode instead of a 2-episode.
So,
but I don't.
There's one point that I really want to, or there's like this little, so like we're essentially done covering like the plot beats. We're essentially done with the recap. There's still a couple other just like random points that I feel like mentioning on the podcast because I just want to. One of them is related to the sister, which, okay, lightest spoilers possible, but you find out near the very end that Hay's sister was also a contractor and was on his like fucking military team during this conflict that happened in South America years ago. And there's this scene that stuck with me so hard because it was this amazing combination of like heartbreaking and terrifying, where Hay walks in on his sister, not walks in because they're in a fucking forest, but like Hay walks on his sister. She's just murked a bunch of dudes. She's just surrounded by corpses, and she like faints or like passes out from exhaustion. He catches her, and in this like really cute voice, she's just like, "Brother, come see, I made the stars fall," which in the context of the world and what falling stars means is devastating.
It was a lot. I don't think I liked the little sister or the sister character because of that line, because I did not enjoy how it was delivered.
Oh, darn.
For her to just drop that, but be like cute little ubu thing about it. It was a little too like anime for me.
See, that's another one I feel like this is just, I feel like this one could be chalked up to different interpretation, because I don't think it was supposed to be cute. I think it was supposed to be playing up like, this is a child soldier.
Yeah. I'll give you that. I had one more little complaint.
Yeah, go ahead.
Inside of a huge compliment. I'll start with the compliment. The character design in this show is fucking amazing.
Yes.
There are so many pretty things, there are so many well-designed things. All of these costumes, even if they're insane, they're believable to the character, and that is an accomplishment. There's only... And the characters that stand out need to stand out, so, like, from a character design standpoint, these characters are incredible. Hay, specifically. Lee, specifically. Oh my god. If you never watched this show, please just at least go look at the candy that is this man.
Oh my god, you know what I just realized?
What?
We never even covered the MI6 gang.
That's fair. They're introduced at that point where there's so much going on that they're confusing. But I think that's something they could discover when they watch it. But they are the most interesting characters, for sure.
I need to draw fan art of April.
Oh my god, you're so precious. But in this big giant compliment that is, oh my god, these characters are so well designed, is my complaint. And that's, why do all the dolls have to be little waif girls? They're all so tiny and so small, and I understand their function, but like, why can't I have a big beefy man doll?
One of the dolls is a little waif boy. It's a little fucking Victorian post boy.
Oh, you're so right. I forgot about him. But I don't know. Like, I wanted more, because their function is effectively to be still the whole time and be without a personality. So why did they have to be all one type of person, like tiny little waif girl, tiny little waif boy.
I can agree with that. I think there's probably some missed opportunity there. Again, maybe something that we'll see in future seasons. I know you're probably not going to watch, but that might be something. I don't know.
I'll look it up.
You go on the Darker Than Black wiki and you look at the dolls, and there's one where it's just like a sumo wrestler.
Contractors, dolls. Oh my god!
Oh, did you find one?
Yes! It looks like it's in the manga, and their name is Champ.
Champ! Oh no, I love that.
He's definitely not a little waif girl. Alright, I'm satisfied. Thank you, Darker Than Black.
Thank you, Darker Than Black manga. You solved our problem.
This one has bunny ears. Maybe I will go read the manga. Cute.
One of the last points that I wanted to make before we continue on, which can segue very nicely after your thing of character design, is I really love the racial diversity in the cast.
Oh my god, yes.
Both like racial diversity, also body types, but like especially the racial diversity, not just in like background characters. Like there's a couple episodes where you see like a bunch of other people that live in like the same apartment complex that Lee lives in, and there's some real nice diversity there. But even just in the main cast, look, fucking Hei is Chinese, Hei/Lee, which I know some people would probably argue is not that big of a deal, but for like early 2000s, well, I guess mid 2000s, 2007, but for like a mid 2000s anime, any character that is not Japanese, I'm going to call that a win. I'm going to call that a point in their favor.
I'm in a complete and utter agreement.
Also, the black people aren't offensive black people, which is another thing.
No, they're just regular black people. I was so excited because I was so scared that they were going to be some awful caricature like we do see in a lot of animes.
Yeah, like I think the closest they come is that there's the black guy who lives in Lee's apartment complex, and he's very obviously supposed to be a basketball player, which is like the closest I think they get to what you could consider offensive stereotyping.
Right.
Also...
But yeah, we've also got... Oh. I was going to say, we've also got Mina. She's Indian.
Yes, yeah. And then there's a lot of like the one-off characters. Darker Than Black does one of my favorite anime things where every white person is blonde with blue eyes.
Yeah. They really are. We have several Russians. We've got the M16 characters. MI6.
Again, April. Stunning.
Yeah, she's really cool. She's one of the ones that I had seen before. And you mentioned earlier that we don't think this was on Adult Swim. I think where I saw this may have been in a New Type magazine.
Oh my god. That would make a lot of sense. I remember finding in my research as I was looking up background stuff for the show that in both a lot of like Japanese anime magazines and some American ones like New Type and Otaku USA, in the time period, Hei was consistently being rated one of the most popular male characters in anime at the time.
I 100% believe that. Because he's so pretty. I love you.
He really is. Also, he can kill you, which is sexy.
It is sexy. That's unbearable. Well, okay, so you've got him being a himbo precious little puppy man, and then he's a big scary wolf. And I'm all about that. Listen, don't laugh at me. I know what I'm about.
No, that's a laughter of agreement. Okay, next up is what I think is very quickly becoming one of my favorite segments, which is looking at old reviews from the time period and seeing what the people of yesteryear thought.
Oh, I can't wait. Tell me their thoughts.
So, most reviews from the time seem to agree that, while the show was often very fun, they would rather it focused on the main plot line and mysteries rather than teasing the audience along a series of vignettes. Interestingly, reviewers for sites like Anime News Network were pretty critical of the show, whereas audience feedback was almost exclusively full of praise. Although even the loudest of fans seem to agree that the ending felt rushed and unsatisfying.
I can't believe how much I agree. Wow.
There's a review from Carl Kimlinger from Anime News Network 2009. This is from his review of the third DVD, which covered episodes 11 and 14. It's not that Tensai Okamura and his crew are idiots, or that the fruits of their labor are rotten. Okamura knows the value of playing his cards close to his chest, seeding each of his tales with fragments of backstory that raise as many questions as they answer. And he has a decent grasp on the mix of intrigue, action, and humor usually purveyed by episodic adventures of this type. But that's precisely what's wrong. Everything is decent and of this type. When the director of Wolf's Rain, the animation studio behind Rasifan, and the composer from Cowboy Bebop join forces, it's reasonable to expect something more than decent. Something that transcends genre limitations and transports audiences. That the result is only ephemerally entertaining can't help but come as a deflating disappointment.
That person has writing on lock for one. That was gorgeous.
Really good job. Good job, Carl. Good job fucking ripping this anime.
Yeah, no, and Carl, I think, hits on a lot of the things that I didn't enjoy about the show. You know, I got excited at times, but it was not I'm gonna base my entire existence off of this anime good. Like, I feel, at least Carl felt, that this incredible team was working on something that should have been more incredible. And all of the pieces were there for it to be groundbreaking. So I'm in agreement with Carl. I think they had the stuff and they just didn't deliver on everything that they could have.
Yeah. So there's one other review I wanted to pull up. This is from a MyAnimeList user, AZ_0K. This is from 2007. This was the only review I could find on Mal that I could find from like pre-2010 that wasn't just like glowingly positive. It's a large review, it's like a few paragraphs, but there's one line in particular that stuck out to me that I wanted to read off. A good writer hits 2 birds with 1 stone. A bad writer wants to hit 10 birds with 1 stone and misses all of them.
Oh, wow.
Again, scathing.
Yeah, and you're saying like the percentage of positive completely outweighs the negative, right?
At least in terms of just like, I don't know, I feel like getting into the conversation of what constitutes a professional review is some murky waters I don't really feel like getting into right now, but at least in terms of like, we'll call them the audience reviews, it was almost entirely positive. I did see some more recent ones on my anime list of people checking it out for like the first time or going back that weren't quite as positive, but at least of the time period, people fucking loved it.
I will say I did just the teensiest bit of review or research on this, and people on Reddit are gaga for this. They are absolutely sing its praises. They think it is the best thing ever. And throughout my short time of researching reviews, there was only a handful, like maybe a 15-20% that were critical in any way. And they actually brought up pretty much all of what we've spoken about and, you know, what me and my homeboy Carl are talking about.
Thanks, Carl.
I appreciate you, Carl.
I think my thoughts on these are, I don't disagree with these complaints, but I don't take them as seriously as these people do. Like, these are absolutely issues. This really could have and probably should have been a better anime, considering the talent behind it, but I don't think that this is like, I don't think it's a waste of time to watch it. I think this is still a good show. It just could have been better.
I agree. If I were to encounter someone that enjoyed the hallmarks of noir, I would put them on this show, and I think they would love it. If I had a person that was really into like a sci-fi action kind of vibe, absolutely they would enjoy this show. And you know, again, all those pieces were there, and I didn't like how they came together as much, but that doesn't mean it's not watchable, and it doesn't mean it's not enjoyable. I would just urge you to turn off your brain just a little bit and enjoy it for what it is.
I think I can probably agree with that. I feel like we kind of jumped the gun a little bit and already did this, but this feels like a pretty good segue into the final segment of the show, which is, would we recommend this to someone today?
Yeah, I guess we did jump a little bit on that.
Kind of.
Yeah, I gotta stand by what I said. If you enjoy noir, if you don't care too terribly much about deep lore, if you want to look at some cool fucking character designs, and enjoy a take on if you enjoy a lot of really cool world building of something that's familiar but unique enough to not feel quite so familiar, then this is a solid recommendation.
I'm pretty much just going to agree with you entirely. In the lead up to us recording, I was thinking very hard on this thought, and I found it harder to come with my answer for this than I thought it would be. Because again, like, I loved this when I was in high school, and I was really excited to watch it, and I still thought it was good. I did find myself thinking on this question longer than I thought I would I recommend it to someone or not? Because while it is a really good time, it does have some pretty sizable flaws that I could see people taking some pretty big issue with. But I did eventually come to the conclusion that I think the good does outweigh the bad enough that, yeah, I would suggest this one. Although we also need to factor in availability, and it's like, do we also think it's worth the trouble of finding? I would still say yes, but I wouldn't be like, I would say watch this if you think this sounds fun, but I'm not gonna be like really fucking chanting for people to go check this out.
I would suggest that if you run across this at a used bookstore, shout out to MaeMae, buy it, enjoy it, pass it on to somebody else. If you don't ever find it, I don't think it'll be any skin off your back. Now, I will say, if you're listening and you know of something that exists like this, but if something like this ever exists for a tabletop in any way, I want to know about it because I want to play it. And I'm not like a huge tabletop person, but there's just something about this concept that I keep wanting to explore a little bit more with, I don't know, some of my own made-up characters.
I do think there is this tiny part of me that is a little disappointed it didn't quite live up to the memories I had of it, but I also know going forward there's going to be many more anime that I am much more disappointed by in hindsight, so I'm still going to count this as a win.
Listen, we did the Chobits episode and I realized a lot of things.
Oh god, yeah.
I had to go first, it's just your turn. I will say one last thought is this absolutely holds up from if we're looking for things that could be problematic in our time period now versus our time period then. I didn't really see anything that was problematic other than the bury your gaze trope that we talked about earlier. I feel like more or less everything else was fine.
I would argue, I don't think this actually counts as bury your gaze because as much as we wish it was true, as much as we wish they weren't actually gay. There was a point that you made earlier of like the whole theme of like, do contractors actually have emotions and what that means for their standing as being like respected as living beings. There are certainly arguments to be made of like, is that an ableist narrative? Are they trying to speak out against that sort of thing? Even as someone who themselves is neurodivergent, I don't feel qualified enough to really touch on that, I'll be honest.
That's fair. I would love to see someone that is qualified to speak about it, but I also feel like the narrative here is ambiguous enough that it's fine, that it doesn't cross any lines. But I do think it at least gives us the avenue to talk about people with neurodivergencies and how they do play into society as a whole. I think X-Men does a better job at having that conversation, but still.
There is a lot of crossover between this and X-Men. Like, we touched on how Evening Primrose is basically just the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but then you also have April, who is just Storm.
Yeah, you're so right.
So I think that was Darker Than Black.
Yeah, I think so. When are we gonna go buy the CD?
Oh, I'm hopping on eBay right as we're done. Recording. I don't know if it exists, but I hope it does.
Hell yeah! Do you also want to order some Pizza Hut?
I do, kind of. Oh. So thank you very much as always, everyone, for listening. We will catch you again in a couple of weeks. If you would like to send us a message or get in contact to us, we are at Weeb on Twitter. Also, if you have any listener questions, suggestions, feedback, whatever, we also have a mailbox. You can get a hold of us at theweebyears@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you all.
Oh yes, please.
And if you liked spending this time with us, we'd really appreciate it if you could help us grow a little. Share the podcast on social media, tell your anime-loving friends, leave a comment, leave a review, etc. We really, really, really like doing this, and the more people that listen, the more we'll be able to keep doing this.
Give us more reasons to watch and talk about all of our yesteryear animes.
I gotta be honest, I know I'm the one who started saying it, but saying yesteryear is not making me feel any younger. Anyway, thank you all very much for listening, and we'll see you again later. Have a good one.
See you next time.